Welcome to MWEB's Entrepreneur Zone. I'm Paul Hobden, and with me today I've got Gillian Boshoff from ABC Direct Express. Welcome, Gillian.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit more about ABC.
Okay, we're a domestic courier company. We do domestic and international work. Been around for 14 years and grown along the way. We offer your basic overnight services, same-day express. We can do a one-stop shop for transport for most companies. We can supply them with most services that they need.
And is the majority of your clients company?
Majority are corporate. I think where we differ in the market is we go looking for the smaller companies. We have a lot of small companies instead of one or two big corporates. We found that they weren't being looked after in the market, so we've gone in and looked after them. And it's amazing over time how the little guys 10 years ago are now really big guys, and they've stayed with us because of the service we offer.
It's a competitive market, the courier industry. I mean, there's some very big players in the market. How do you compete with them?
We compete by being aware of what our competitors are charging. You have to be aware of what other people are doing. In our industry, it's not always just the big fish that are a problem. It's the little guys who set up with one van and come and try and undercut everybody in the market, and then always end up in trouble because they're not managing their business properly. But we mainly keep to ourselves and do what we do well and be aware of what we need to charge and our service levels and sort of try and stay out of getting into too much mudslinging with other companies.
With kind of some big brands out there and then lots of noise with little competitors, how do you get your message and your brand out?
The main way we use at the moment is the internet. We've actually recently we've redone our website. Search engine optimization we're busy with at the moment. So we're using technology to push ourselves forward and push ourselves out there. And branding. All the vans are branded, all the drivers are branded. I think it's people seeing something again and again that they then recognize it when they see it or hear it.
And in those 14 years, I'm sure there's been a lot of change and technology being part of that. How have you seen that changing the industry?
It's changed a lot of stuff in the industry because when we first started, majority of our work was documents. So it would be overnight, people sending documents up and down, which doesn't happen anymore. Now people send emails, so they don't need to send documents up and down. But what has come now is with internet shopping has brought new business. So change is never bad. You've just got to adapt with change and don't be stubborn and don't stick with what you've done. Be flexible and move with time.
With that change or whatever, one thing is still the same, and that's customer service. How do you focus on customer service?
Customer service starts with training your staff. Your staff have to understand what you do, why you're doing it, and how you do it. And don't tell lies ever. Even if it's not what the customer wants to hear, tell them the truth. And with the industry we're in, what the big rule I have with my staff is when you know something's gone wrong, phone them before they phone us. Because when we phone to say that there's a problem, then they stay calm. If they phone us to say where the parcel, we're on the back foot and we've lost already. So you've got to be proactive with customer service and make sure that you keep people informed as to what's happening.
Gillian, you mentioned one of the changes was the kind of growth in online shopping and the knock-on effect that it has for courier businesses. Tell us a bit more about that.
I think it's been a great growth for the industry, and it's a great way to shop. Personally, I find. For the business, biggest challenge we have with internet shopping in South Africa is just the size of South Africa, and the remote areas to get to are difficult. Moving stuff between the major centres really easy, really straightforward. But as soon as you start going Pofadder and Piketberg and these sort of really small places, then service delivery times become difficult and cost also becomes prohibitive. So it's finding a good balance with your client. And when we have new clients for internet shopping, we have to understand what they do, what they're doing, what their expectations are. And as long as we tell them exactly what they can expect transport-wise, we should become an add-on of their business. So we're not an outsourced, we're not a separate entity. We become part of their business because we're the part. Guys go online, they shop, they put their order in, they then expect delivery.
You spoke as well about the importance of training your staff and making sure that they are able to deal well with customers. How do you keep your staff motivated? How do you keep them well trained?
Staff motivation, I think staff motivation comes from buy-in. They've got to buy into the company. They've got to understand what the company's about, what you're doing, and that by us all doing our part properly, the whole thing rolls forward and keeps growing and we grow with it. I have staff who've been with me since I've started, and I'm really lucky with staff retention. They come and they stay if they're good. If they're not good, then they get shown a door or a window, whichever one they'd prefer. But you've got to train them properly so that they understand what they're doing. And the people we do the most training with are our drivers, because they're my front of house. People don't see my office staff, they don't go to the office, they see my vans and my drivers on the road. So we educate the drivers with regard to driving properly on the road. You know, don't be discourteous to other people, don't be a taxi driver, be courteous to people on the road. Look after your van, it's your job. You know, if you no van, no job. So, and it's been amazing with the guys, we've done it over the last 5 years, a real amount of staff training with the drivers. And the difference in the drivers and how they drive and how they see their job and their role in the company. They know they're important and they know that they matter.
Gillian, personally I know that staff development is important to you. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to take people who've got the right personality, and if you can give them an opportunity, they can blossom, and seeing that is amazing. The two that come to mind at the company, the one lady started life. She was actually the first person I employed, which was scary for me and her. She was a qualified hairdresser, was working at KFC when I took her on to answer the phone and do a bit of data capturing. And she's now fully qualified bookkeeper. She produces all my management accounts and is one of the lungs of my business and keeps it running on a daily basis. Knows the business financially as well, if not better than I do. And she's absolutely amazing. To have watched her go from where she started to where she is now, which is not only successful business-wise, but she's a mum, she's got 2 boys. Just great to see people achieve and do stuff for themselves. Second one is the lady who came to work for me when I first fell pregnant and realised that this baby was actually going to arrive and needed somebody to look after it because I was busy looking after the business. I took a lady on to look after the children at home, and she did the most phenomenal job at home. My house was spotless, my children were perfectly looked after, and she took tremendous pride in what she did. When it got to the point where the boys were starting school, I didn't have a job for at home anymore, but I did have an opening at the office. Now, she'd never worked on a computer, never answered a phone, never been in an office environment. And so I said to her, right, we'll try it. I said, you've got 3 months. If you're not up to scratch in 3 months, this is my business. As much as I love you, I can't keep you on for charity. You've got to be able to do the job. And she now runs my national ops. She manages drivers all over the country. She takes incoming calls from clients all over the country. She's absolutely phenomenal, and she's actually just become a mum herself for the first time. So again, seeing people develop and grow is just phenomenal. Absolutely. That's, to me, is one of the best parts of doing what I do.
And for your staff, it must be inspiring to see that people have developed like that.
Yeah. And you can't do it with everyone, and I think that was the hard lesson I learned early on. I expected to do it. I had good success with the first few staff I brought in, and then you just expect to be able to do it with everybody. And some people you can't, but I would say it's maybe an 80-20 ratio. 80% of people you can. Most people want to do better. Most people want an opportunity, and if you give them an opportunity, they'll run with it. You've got 20% that, however much opportunity you give them, are not going to put the effort in from their side, and you can't do it for them. They've got to want to do it themselves.
You're not from a background in a courier company. You come from quite a different background. How did you get into it, and how did you have a vision for this business?
I got into the business via recruitment. I worked for a short while in a recruitment company, and I was placing people within courier companies in Cape Town. And I got very friendly with a guy who was an ops manager at one of the bigger firms who wanted to go on his own. And so he approached me and said, would I go in with him in the business and do the admin and sales side? He'd do the operational side. So we did, and we started the business up together, and started from scratch with 1 van, no customers, and a lot of prayers. We stuck together for about 18 months through the business. It grew quite quickly. Where we differed was I learnt what he knew and learnt his skills and wanted to take the business forward, and he didn't want to go forward at the same pace. So I offered him a buyout on it and went forward on my own with the company from there.
What's the differences? I mean, you've now experienced both, being a partner and being a sole owner. What's the differences? What are the learnings for people on both of those?
There's pros and cons, I think, with both sides. When you're a partnership, there's somebody else to blame. When things go wrong, all right. When you're on your own, it's down to you. So if you get it wrong, you get it wrong, and there's nobody to turn around and point a finger at and say, but this was their choice and their decision, and I didn't agree with it. I prefer being on my own. It works better for me. I'm not very good at partnerships. I've learnt that along the way. But it does work I know other companies where it works very well, and they can have very successful partnerships. But I think with a partnership in business, going into it, make sure clearly you set out legally who's responsible for what and how you get out of the partnership if you want to. That, to me, is more important than the day-to-day workings. That, you know, what your responsibilities are, what you're supposed to do, and how you dissolve the partnership if you get to that point.
I'm sure in your 14 years, you must have been asked to courier some strange items.
Yeah, there's been a few peculiar ones. I think one of the funny ones that came up was one Christmas. Somebody wanted to send bath salts, and it was a very strange dealing, and we were all a bit suspicious of it. So we reported it straight to customs, and we gave it to them. And the bath salts weren't bath salts.
Where to for ABC Direct Express?
Forwards, obviously. And it's one of those where I don't necessarily want to be the biggest courier company out there. I'm not concerned with being the biggest. Profitable, yes. Biggest, no. We've got a nice setup now. The business has its own momentum, which a business will gain after so many years. It will run by itself, and my staff are really good. I'm very lucky I can leave them with it, and they run the day-to-day business really, really well. For me, there's a few avenues I'd like to explore with imports and exports, get more into that line of work, and some container work as well, just to diversify and vary the business a bit.
That brings us on to the rapid round of questions. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Learn how to understand your financial statements.
And your best moment as an entrepreneur?
Cracking the million for the first time was fantastic.
And your biggest mistake?
Not understanding my financial statements.
What quality do you look for in people that you work with?
Honesty, intelligence, practicality, and a sense of humour.
And what does an entrepreneur need to succeed?
A sense of humour, definitely. Drive, passion, and find the fun. Look for fun.
What's your inspiration as a small business owner?
The people I work with, the people I work for, the stuff I do outside of work, the freedom that being an entrepreneur gives me.
And what would you do differently?
I would have learnt to not rely on accountants straight away.
What makes South Africa a good place to be an entrepreneur?
There's so much opportunity here. There is huge opportunity. There's huge drive amongst people, and people like seeing success. I've found over here, they're not so much the chop you down if you're doing well. People enjoy you if you're doing well and want to support and want to encourage.
What keeps you awake at night?
Not much. I sleep very well.
And what gets you going in the morning?
New day, new challenges, new start. I do just enjoy what I do.
Gillian, thank you very much. And thank you for joining us. We look forward to the coming weeks. We will bring you further South African entrepreneurs. I'm Paul Hobden. Thank you and goodbye.